On the morning of October 30th, 1974, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, a 19-year-old Western Michigan University student named Gloria Steele was attacked and stabbed 33 times. Her body was discovered at approximately 1:40 that afternoon. Investigators had a brutal crime scene, but no clear path to the person responsible. The case would go unanswered for decades. 5 years later, on December 1st, 1979, in Ferndale, Michigan, a 36-year-old woman named Helen was stabbed 12 times in an alley. Like Gloria Steele's murder, Dutcher's death sat unsolved. What no one yet understood was that these two Michigan killings were threads in a far larger and darker pattern, one that stretched across state lines and would eventually be tied to a single man. That man was Carl Eugene Watts, born November 7th, 1953, in Killeen, Texas. In the years that followed, investigators came to associate him with a string of killings that earned him a chilling nickname in the press, the Sunday Morning Slasher. But the full scope of what he had done, and the legal bargain that would shield him from accountability for most of it, would only emerge after a single violent night in Houston. On May 23, 1982, two young women, 18-year-old Melinda Aguilar and 21-year-old Lori Lister, were attacked in a Houston apartment. That same day, a woman named Michelle Madej was drowned in a bathtub. The attack on Aguilar and Lister was interrupted, and Melinda Aguilar's escape helped bring the assault to an end. Watts was arrested that same day, May 23, 1982. What happened next in the Texas courts would become one of the most controversial plea arrangements in American criminal history. Watts accepted a 60-year sentence for the May 23, 1982 attacks. As part of that arrangement, he confessed to killing 13 others. And in exchange for leading authorities to bodies and providing information, he received immunity for 12 killings, 11 in Texas and 1 in Michigan. Because of the way that deal was structured, the confessions could not be used to prosecute him for those additional deaths. He had, in effect, traded information for protection from further murder charges. For the families of victims across 2 states, that outcome was devastating. A man who had admitted to killing more than a dozen people had been sentenced, but not for those killings themselves. And then came a detail that turned dread into urgency. Watts was due to be released from Texas prison in April 2006. Because of the terms and sentence credit calculations attached to his case, the man tied to so many deaths was on track to walk free. That looming release date became the engine that drove a renewed effort to hold him accountable. In 2004, Michigan Attorney General Mike Cox went on national television to draw attention to the case and to the possibility that Watts could soon be released. That public appeal produced a breakthrough. A man named Joseph Foy came forward, saying he had witnessed the murder of Helen Dutcher back in 1979. His account gave prosecutors something the immunity deal could not touch: an eyewitness to a killing that had never been charged. With Foy's testimony, Michigan prosecutors were able to bring Watts to trial for Helen Dutcher's murder. On November 17, 2004, a Michigan jury convicted Carl Eugene Watts of murdering Helen Dutcher. According to Fox News, Watts was found guilty of stabbing 36-year-old Helen Dutcher to death, and he faced a mandatory life sentence. On December 7, 2004, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. That conviction was later upheld on appeal in 2006, meaning it was never overturned. It stood. The Dutcher conviction had a direct and immediate consequence. It stopped the release. Instead of walking out of prison in April 2006, Watts was now serving a life sentence in Michigan. But prosecutors were not finished. They turned their attention back to the very first killing in the sequence, the 1974 death of Gloria Steele. The Gloria Steele trial began on July 25, 2007, in Kalamazoo. On July 27, 2007, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Watts was convicted of the murder of the 19-year-old student, whose life had been cut short more than 3 decades earlier. On September 13, 2007, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for Steele's murder. 2 Michigan convictions now stood against him, each carrying a life sentence, accountability that the 1982 immunity deal had once seemed to make impossible. Just over a week after that second sentencing, Carl Eugene Watts died. On September 21, 2007, at the age of 50, he died of prostate cancer in Jackson, Michigan. He died in custody, serving both life sentences. Neither conviction was ever vacated. The appeal questions that had once hovered over the 2004 case were rendered moot by his death while incarcerated. The case of the Sunday morning slasher leaves behind more than a body count. It leaves a difficult lesson about the machinery of justice itself. A plea deal built to recover victims and close cases also handed a confessed killer immunity for a dozen deaths and nearly returned him to freedom. It took a public appeal by a state attorney general and the courage of a single eyewitness willing to come forward decades after what he saw to keep that from happening. Helen and Gloria Steele were, at last, named in verdicts. 2 juries, one in 2004 and one in 2007, delivered the accountability that the immunity agreement had withheld for so long. Their cases stand as a reminder that a witness who speaks, even years later, can change everything, and that the passage of time does not always mean a case is closed for good.